I've been through a lot in my baseball journey. After taking 10 years off and finally getting back into the game, trying to rebuild my swing from scratch using ChatGPT, there's still a long way for me to go. The journey has been full of ups, downs, sideways progress, and in that time, I've trained a lot. I've consumed tons of advice, but unfortunately, none of it's really gotten me anywhere. So after letting ChatGPT rebuild my swing, I thought of another crazy idea. Why don't I let it design my off-season program? Hello everyone, this is Bryce on Balls, where I talk about my baseball journey in the hopes of helping you on yours. In today's episode, if you will, I'll be discussing how I let ChatGPT build me an entire baseball off-season training program that was specific to me and my needs, and hopefully you'll be able to do the same for yourself and save yourself tons of time and heartache that I myself endured over the course of my entire baseball life. So before I get into the program that I had ChatGPT create for me, I need to give you a little bit of context. So I took 10 years off of playing baseball, and within the last 3 years, I've made a return to it. If you want more details about that journey, you can find it on my channel where I talk about it in depth. I'm just an adult amateur player. I'm not a professional. I never played collegiately. The highest level I got to was varsity high school, where I started for 3 years. And after all of that crashed and burned, I swore off baseball forever. And now for the last couple of years, I've been very much in a comeback mindset to really address some unfinished business. That unfinished business being, I really want to see how good of a baseball player that I can be. Now, as an adult baseball player, I have a life. I'm 29 years old. I don't have all the time in my world. This isn't a full-time thing for me. And I'm sure that is the case for all of you, whether you're a young player as a student or whether you're also a fellow adult baseball player. And because of that, training efficiency really matters. I had to be very specific about my goals for training, what I wanted to do, and I couldn't just grab a program off of Driveline, for example, and use that because it wasn't tailored to me. It was way too general. And on top of it, there's just way too many drills to sort through. There's way too many workouts, and there is a very large lack of understanding why you are fed certain drills and certain exercises. And because of that lack of understanding of why, the lack of context that I need, I decided to turn to ChatGPT to help me design an off-season baseball training program. And much like the context I just gave you, I had to give it a ton of context to help level the field so that it could provide me with the best recommendation possible. I gave it my age, I gave it my level of competition, I fed all of it my life story basically, and my baseball journey up until this point. I explained all my current limitations, timing constraints, what days I could go lift, what days I could get access to a field, if at all, or what days I would be getting into a facility. I gave it as much detail as I possibly could. I also gave it any injuries or limitations that I happen to have. In my most recent video, that injury was mallet finger, which is healing quite well. I also explained to it why I was turning to it for help and for organization and for a specific plan for me, because then it could help me refine my thought process a little bit more. I explained that I didn't want random drills, random fluff. I wanted the most efficient plan possible to get the most value out of my time, essentially. Most importantly, I gave it my specific goals. So to be very concrete, I asked it to design me a plan that would increase my bat speed, increase my throwing velocity, increase my sprint speed and acceleration. And at the same time, I wanted to improve my hitting techniques. I wanted to improve my pitching mechanics and also my base running mechanics. I gave it a ton of information, all of my goals. How effective was it in actually creating a plan for myself? Despite giving it all that context, all of my needs and all my goals, it produced by far and away the best plan I think I have ever seen. It was a surprisingly effective way to really hone in on my training and make it as efficient as possible, all the while still making meaningful progress toward all the goals I just mentioned. After it gave me all of these drills, I would grill it basically. I would ask as many questions as humanly possible. Most importantly, why am I doing these drills? Why am I doing these things twice a week instead of 3, 4, 5? Should I be training more? Should I be training less? And it walked me through each and every question I had until I understood it fully, and I could ask it as many clarifying questions as I want. And he even took it as far as to explain how each drill would contribute to my goals, and to top it all off, it gave me a decent amount of biomechanics knowledge that I would have never learned otherwise. And as somebody who knows almost nothing about biomechanics, I've learned a ton in a very short amount of time. Now, I want to be abundantly clear and give a little bit of a disclaimer here. I am not using ChatGPT to eliminate your own baseball knowledge, to eliminate coaches. What I wanted from it was I wanted clarity, and I wanted direction, and I wanted something tailored to me. I've never had a coach that could do all three. Plus, I would encourage you to use your own knowledge to cross-check it, ask it as many questions as you want. Okay, so this is the plan that it ended up giving me. So twice per week, what I would do is I would do base running work. And in my base running work, I would do 3-point starts. I would do flying tens, alternating bounds, and lateral shuffles to sprinting. For pitching work, again, twice a week, I would do neurological work, so that is overload and underload training. What that really means is you take a baseball that is slightly heavier than a normal one, you take a baseball that is slightly lighter than a normal one, and you have your regular baseball. And essentially you would do plyometric exercises with those balls about twice a week. Adding to the pitching explosiveness, med ball work is an absolute must, 1 to 2 times a week, depending on the state of things. It also gave me a small throwing program. I actually had to prompt ChatGPT to give me this because in my original plan, it did not subscribe to me a throwing program. So once I pushed back on it, it advised me doing a little bit of flat ground work and long toss once a week respectively. Because again, there is such a thing as training too much. And finally, for the hitting side of things, again, this program is twice a week. You would do neurological work, much like you did with pitching, where you would take a baseball bat that was slightly heavier than what you normally swing with, a baseball that is slightly lighter than what you'd normally swing with, and your normal game bat. You would then do baseball swings with as much intent as humanly possible in the purpose of increasing your bat speed over time. And again, much like pitching, I would add in medicine ball exercises once to twice a week to really express any strength that you have properly. And on top of it, the other constraint that I gave it in the hitting world was the fact that I have access to Win Reality, which I really love. So it also recommended some Win Reality swinging drills for me to do for pitch recognition to be a more complete hitter. And on top of that, again, twice a week, you're starting to see the theme here. Twice a week, I would also do strength and J-band exercises. So this includes full body lifts, getting the whole body into all the exercise that you do. When I told it that I had this mallet finger injury, it gave me an injury-appropriate workload and exercises to do and perhaps to avoid. Sticking with your physician's advice, of course, if you are doing this injured. So it gave me this entire complete program full of exercises, the frequency at which I should be doing them, and why each of them is effective in contributing to each of the goals that I mentioned. Never in my entire life have I been able to design or learn from a coach as to how to design my own program and to be as successful as a baseball player I could possibly be. And that is the beauty of ChatGPT if used properly. It can really shatter your expectations and really create training programs that are most conducive to you and aren't generic from a website or generic from a coach who's coaching maybe 30, 40 of you at a time. Now, after going through the entire training program and linking it in the description below, I encourage you all to read it for the number of sets and reps if you're curious. But why does this plan make sense? You'll recall earlier that I mentioned that I would grill ChatGPT and ask it so many clarifying questions about the plan that it gave me. And as well, I suggested different refinements. So the beautiful part about this plan was the fact that it respected all of my limitations that I mentioned, including time, injury, recovery, but it also forced me to go with quality over volume, and it taught me how to do that. What I mean by that is I have always had a tendency as a baseball player to train every single day, take no days off. I'm sure all of you athletes have heard that expression at least once, and I'm going to tell you it is a garbage statement to live by. But this really helped me understand why training each aspect of my Baseball player acumen was a bad idea if I was doing it every day. It forced me to stick to 2 days a week for each part of my regimen because one, it helps with the quality aspect of things. If you are too tired, if your nervous system is worn out in doing these exercises, you're not going to have gains in your goals. And it went to deep details surrounding that entire theme and why twice a week was the optimal amount for reasons like recovery, so your nervous system doesn't get fried and you start plateauing or getting tired or regressing or straight up quit. If I were to just go off of phrases like take no days off or go off my blind intuition that I've been taught for my entire life, I would have burnt out and quit baseball by now. But ChatGPT helped anchor me in, explain to me why the frequency, the 2 days a week, was the most effective. It removed the ability or the desire for me to hide by just grinding. And on top of it, the best thing about the program is the fact that it not only incorporates better mechanics, better technique, but it also completes the picture with having the appropriate strength to hone those things in as effectively as possible. If you only do technique, you can only get so far, albeit you can get pretty far with technique. If you only do strength, as I've learned in the past, you don't get very far at all. When you have the perfect blend of the two, you become a lot more of a complete baseball player. And all the while, when I grilled it on this plan even more, I asked it to give me the scientific references and studies that it used to make the recommendations and answer my questions that it has been. And it did exactly that. It gave me the research papers, of which I did read through some of them and go through to back up its claims. So it not only created the perfect program for me, it backed it up by science, which is exactly what you want. Which I contend is the big difference between getting a program from some random person on YouTube versus scientific-based evidence. So with this program, you might be wondering, how am I doing on it currently? Well, before I answer that, I have to talk to you about how I track and adjust the gains that I get from the training that I was prescribed. One of those things is Win Reality and its Swing AI metrics. Now, I know for a lot of people, getting access to Swing AI and Win Reality isn't feasible for everybody, and that is okay. For me, I have access to both of those things, so that's why I use those metrics rather than something like a Blast Motion, which I didn't really feel like shelling out $200 for. Most importantly, things like barrel speed is the main thing that I get from Win Reality. And Swing AI I really like because it uses AI in and of itself to recommend different mechanical adjustments, see how your swing is doing, how it's progressing. I use that tool very effectively over the last 2.5, 3, 4 months that I've been doing this training program, and my swing is a lot better. On top of that, I would monitor things like progress on my lifts. So for example, about 3-4 months ago, my chest press was 20 pounds lower. My leg press was about 30 to 40 pounds lower. Last thing I use to kind of track progress, I use the free version of Pitch Lab. It is a very new app that you can use to set up where you record yourself pitching and it can tell you a whole bunch of metrics about your pitches. Again, I use the free version of that app rather than paying for a subscription for it or buying myself a radar because of the fact that I don't want to spend all of my money on baseball and I already spend enough money on Win Reality as it is. Okay, so as the results of my training so far, again, I have only been on this program for about, I want to say, 5 weeks for all of the neural work, again, because of this injury, but I've been weight training for probably about 12 weeks on this program. In the time that I've been adhering to this program, my bat speed has gone up 5 miles per hour on average over the course of the last 5 weeks. In Win Reality, my average bat speed used to be around about 56 miles per hour. In the last 5 weeks, since starting the program, it has now jumped up to about 62. My max barrel speed used to be around 57, 58. It has now jumped up to 66 miles per hour. On all of my lifting regimen, my strength training regimen, all of my lifts have also increased. I can't remember every single one of them, but from the ones I can remember, my chest press has gone up by 20 pounds. My leg press has gone up also by about 20, maybe 30 pounds. My tricep extensions have gone up by about 5 pounds. My shoulder press has gone up by about 10 pounds. My leg extension has gone up by about 20 pounds. And my hamstring curls have gone up by about 20 pounds as well. Now again, your mileage may vary completely based on who you are as a person, as a baseball player. These numbers are in no way indicative of something that you should be striving for, because at the end of the day, this program was designed for me specifically and only to work for me specifically. So if you try to do this with ChatGPT, you're going to get a different answer than me because we are two different people. So don't think for a second that if you don't reach those metrics or milestones in the first 5 weeks of your training that you're doing something wrong, because everybody's journey is different and everybody's plan is different, and your goals and the level that you play at is going to be different. And that kind of leads me into my next point about the plan. Does it ever really change? I will tell you that the plan changes very often. To a point, I will say, and the reason being is because life happens. You're going to have different circumstances. You might get hurt. You might not have a whole bunch of time in the week to get to all of your training because you have a life. There is more to life than just baseball. And on top of it, like, you'll adapt to your training. You'll learn different concepts, different techniques, and you'll want to incorporate those into your plan, which you can consult ChatGPT to adjust the plan for. For example, when it initially gave me my plan, I had noticed it had done almost nothing to incorporate some kind of throwing outside of plyo ball exercises. I asked it, I'm like, shouldn't I be doing some kind of long toss? And so we added in flat ground work and long toss once a week and explained why doing it once and only once was optimal. Just last week, I kind of told it that, twice a week doing med ball work for hitting and pitching started to become a lot, and I started to feel really run down and tired by the end of the week. So we adjusted the plan to only be 1 day of med ball work for hitting and for pitching per week. Explained why that was important, why I shouldn't do any more, and the reasons for recovering at that pace. And even more so, we discussed the long-term effects for such things. And again, ask it as many clarifying questions as you can, because if I didn't ask it those questions, there's a lot that I wouldn't have learned and understood. So I've talked to you about why I've used ChatGPT to go ahead and design me a baseball offseason training program. I have told you what the program entails, why I do it, how effective it was, what it works for me, and the constraints that I've given it. And so you might be asking, what's next? I have 16 weeks until my next season starts. I'm going to keep adhering to this program and evolving it over time as my progress changes. And what I will do is I will document my daily training in the form of YouTube shorts that you guys can keep up if you're interested. And the reason for that is just to be transparent and honest about how the training is going. If this training program is going great and ChatGPT helped, I want you to know about it. If it turns out it sucks and I'm going nowhere, I also want you to know about it. We're on this journey together. And the goal of all of that is to just be as honest about my training as humanly possible in 60 seconds or less. And so, friends, a few takeaways from this entire experience. At the end of the day, what I've learned from this is that you don't need more drills. You don't need more coaches. You don't need to grind every single day, wear yourself out, and start to hate the game that you love. You just need your own goals, your own vision, and a reason for why you want to play baseball. Because at the end of the day, structure and process-based intention is way better than intensity by a mile, and consistency is way better than having a perfect plan all the time. Again, life happens. You are a person. There's more to life than just baseball. So if you can't do all of these things every single week, don't worry about it. You can adjust. If you have questions, you can ask ChatGPT to help clarify things for you. Lean on your support system as much as you can. Alright guys, so to close out the video, thank you so much for watching. If you've ever felt lost in your training or you've had way too many drills to work on, I'd love to hear your story down in the comments below. How are you approaching your training? What do you do for your off-season training program? Whatever it is, I'd love to hear about it, and I hope it's going well. I've been Bryce. This has been Bryce on Balls, and until next time, have a great day.